To the show.
Right. All right. Well, I am here with Cate, who runs Crispy Aura, a tattoo artist out of Chicago. I guess let's just get right into it. First question. So what got you into the tattoo world?
It is the most random thing. And I think I was thinking about this last night, and in a way, it actually really connects with my work and my mental health. I kind of went through this period, I would say in the last 2 years, of a lot of understanding myself again and a lot of like feminine, masculine energy balancing, stuff like that. It was just completely out of my realm before. And I think that led me into art again. You know, I've always been an artist growing up, and I kind of took a break from it once I got caught up in the corporate world. And connected with that part of myself again, especially during lockdown. And then as we started opening back up a bit, I started dancing more and just really enjoying the creativity. And then I turned 30, and one day at 4 a.m., I just thought, whoa, what if I got into the tattoo world? Yeah. It was the most random thought, and I truly don't know where it came from. And sometimes I just think it's one of those things in the universe that just pops into your brain. But yeah, I just kept on exploring that and kept on looking into ways of doing it. And truly, it's funny because I always tell my clients, I don't know that I ever thought that I'd be client facing. I thought it was just going to be something that I do for myself and my soul, that I then, you know, collect a little other piece of me to have and to keep, and just kind of keep doing me. But it just kind of grew from there. So yeah, it just started from that nagging thought. And you know, too, when I started getting more into research about it and the path to becoming a tattoo artist, it's universally really random and sometimes really tough. There's no specific program, or you know, we maybe like go to school for things, or there's no specific path. I think a lot of people do different paths, like either they're self-taught or they love working with the artists and end up apprenticing for them, stuff like that. I think I was just so confused that in my mind there was this thought of, you know, maybe in my next lifetime. And my freshly turned 30 soul was like, no, what do you mean? Yeah. So I think that was also the drive that just pushed me more. So I finally was able to find someone that was willing to offer one-on-one training. I knew that I didn't need someone to teach me how to draw. It was more so the mechanics behind it, understanding the skin, getting feedback from your machine, practicing. So that's kind of the way that I went. I flew out to Los Angeles. I connected with this girl. Her name is Adored Link on Instagram. And yeah, I lived with her for about a week.
Dang.
We got into tattooing, talking, you know, the history, the theory, understanding the machine, understanding skin, practicing a heck ton. And in that process, really also connecting pretty spiritually. We had very similar backgrounds growing up, so that was really cool. I thought that was supposed to be the reason why I got into it, and tattoo was just going to be a reason to meet this person. Yeah. But yeah, then I came home, practiced a lot, tattooed on my friends, their friends, random people, Instagram, and it just went from there. So.
Dang. And now are you full-time tattoo artist?
No.
Just doing it on the side?
Yeah, it's still very fresh to me, and I'm still trying to find my way. And to be honest, sometimes I get a lot of imposter syndrome.
I get that too, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it happens with everyone across all different fields and industries, right? As we're trying to figure out ourselves. So yeah, I mean, I gave myself grace for that, but I do experience that, and sometimes I'm like, I guess I'm a tattoo artist. Yeah. So it's interesting, but yeah, I still do it on the side. So it's what I've been doing all my weekends, evenings. And beyond that, it's just trying to balance time for myself, right? But I see it as my rest almost. Yeah. I see it as my connection. So it's actually really fueling for my soul, and it doesn't feel like work yet. So
well, that's huge.
It's been good. Yeah.
Do you ever think you would want to make it full time? Like, let's say a few years down the line, and you have like that clientele that wants tattoos all the time. You know, do you ever see that happening?
I think I flip back and forth a lot on different days. It's so funny because on certain days where corporate world is too much, I can hear my brain saying, I'm going to quit right now. I'm going to quit right now. And I've never been that way. You know, I've never felt that way. It's so funny. But to me, the tattooing process and the people that I meet and the act of just doing it is so fulfilling to me and so precious to me that I am very, very afraid of it losing that.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer if I went full time, if I would just blossom into that feeling of, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in my life, or, well, you know, just with how things are and how we are when we feel like our livelihood depends on something, will it start to lose that spark and that specialness to me. I'm really afraid of that. So I have an aunt who growing up I always admired her, and I think I was so much like her that I took her words so with so much meaning. And in high school I used to be that AP math and AP art kid. I didn't know which way to go, and I felt so conflicted, and teachers and parents were telling me different things. I had a whole portfolio ready to mail out to go to art school, and I chickened out, and I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. I just went to the general school, didn't even declare a major until later. I went into business like every freaking person that doesn't know what to do. So it led me down that path, and, you know, I love the mathematical, analytical side of my job too. It kind of just like tickles a different part of my brain, you know? Mm-hmm. And I love the balance of having tattooing there. And I also got really into dancing. So I love, you know, feeling the creativity, like the femininity flow through me in that way, that I'm just a little afraid to tip the scale. But we'll see. Yeah. I don't know.
To your point about the school, like not knowing exactly what you wanted to do, I was the same way, and I was never good at school. I never understood why I had to just sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day. Yeah, it just never clicked with me. But just like you said, there were a lot of pressures around me from parents and teachers and other students. So I went to college for a year. Went to business school because
really
yeah, it was like
this will help.
But I totally get it. And to your point about like the imposter syndrome, that's something that I've definitely felt recently, and it's something that I don't know will ever go away, honestly, but I think it's a good feeling almost, because it means that. Say that again?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, what is that like for you? Like, what are the thoughts and questions in your head when you feel that way?
It varies day to day. Recently, like actually last night, I kind of was just thinking about the company and everything I'm trying to do with tattoo artists like yourself and the mental health community. And like the original reason why I started Lonely Cowboy, I wanted it to be a nonprofit, but it just cost too much initially. So last night I was thinking, like, I don't want this to turn into something that I don't enjoy, and I don't want it to be for money. So I think now my kind of like stance on it is to prevent having too much of an imposter syndrome, kind of separating myself from my company and kind of letting the company have a life of its own. And I'm just the facilitator of the company. So
that's so interesting, because sometimes I feel like I meet people and I feel like our brains or minds just connect. But last night I was just thinking about you and this, our conversation coming up. And I was thinking like, wow, I feel like you're doing so much. And from what I've seen, it feels like it's kind of like a passion project that was very up and coming, but recently it feels like you started pouring a lot of work and time and, planning your next steps and actions. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking, man, like, I hope that it feels manageable, because even from my perspective, I could see, like, if you are churning things out in terms of content, in terms of connecting with tattoo artists, in terms of having these sit-down conversations and making them feel authentic and connected, and working on the shirts and managing this and managing that, I could see how that could be a lot. And that's why I was like, does tomorrow still work? Like, I feels like you're so busy,
Well,
so obviously, like, I appreciate the time to connect and stuff, but I was just thinking, I hope that it doesn't feel close to a burnout for you or anytime soon.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, because this is the whole goal, is to
Yeah.
connect with artists like yourself.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot going on, and I definitely don't think that, like, it's a sustainable path for 30 years. I couldn't work this hard for 30 years. But right now, like I was saying, to kind of separate myself from the company and just say, okay, I'm going to give this everything I have, because I know that the impact of what Lonely Cowboy could do is much greater than me. It's much greater than anything else. So it's not like this is not for money at all. And
I don't think that
eventually,
people think that.
no, yeah, I don't think,
You know?
I don't think people think that, but I think for me, like, I've had throughout my life, money has always been a kind of stress, just based on family situations and everything going on. So I've always made it a point since I was young to say, like, money will never drive me. I never want money to drive me. The only reason I want to be successful as far as finances is so I can take care of the company, take care of my family, take care of friends. But this company, Lonely Cowboy, I'm not in it for the wrong reasons, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I really want this to be something that can live on forever and be able to highlight artists like yourself. That's the whole goal.
Yeah, I think from the moment that I connected, I felt the genuineness coming from you. So
I appreciate it.
yeah.
So back to kind of your story with tattooing. So how long have you been tattooing officially?
Yeah, tattooing officially, it's been about 6-7 months.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know. It's so crazy to me. That's why I say it's so fresh, and I think that's where a lot of the imposter syndrome comes from.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like, man, like the universe opened this path for me, and people are coming. I'm connecting with people, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm just leaning more into it. So it's a constantly, like, a big question mark of what will this become and where will this take me. So yeah, I'm excited to see kind of where this goes, and I'm also excited to connect with you like a couple years down the line, see where your company goes,
awesome.
and where I think that would be really awesome.
Do you think have you lived in Chicago forever?
No, I was born and raised in China. Grew up, kind of when we were talking about schooling and how you said that you sat there like, why do I have to sit here for this long?
Yeah.
I thought it was so interesting because I never thought that. It was just something that you had to do. Like, I felt like my brain was just conditioned to do it and to make sure that school always is top priority. So yeah, my background, when I came over to the U.S., I was 10 years old. So for a long period of my life, I was back and forth, like, what's my true identity? I think I live in such a world of duality of my background, of my creative brain, of my analytical brain. It's just constantly a balance. But I remember school was such a stressor for me and for my family, and I'm only a child, so all eyes were always on me.
Me too.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I was actually the generation in China where it was the one child policy, so they couldn't have a second one.
Wow, that's
Yeah, so
crazy.
all of me and my cousins are all only kids, and we just played with each other growing up. So I felt like I had brother or sister, but I just thought it's so interesting that that generation of people in China, their kids won't have aunts and uncles. It's
That
just like
is
a missing
crazy.
gap. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, my parents were really strict growing up, and I remember when I turned 16, I got a job at Cold Stone. Freaking loved it. Still to this day, one of my best working experiences. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, I would be going to work, and my dad would say something like, "If you don't go today, I'll pay you double what you make," because they wanted me focused on school.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was that intense.
Dang.
But yeah, so we moved to the Los Angeles area for about a year or two, and then since then I've been more so in the suburbs, in Champaign for school, and then now living in the city in Chicago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you correlate any like we were speaking about imposter syndrome? Do you think that has anything to do with being an only child? Because
That's so interesting.
I kind of feel like that for me a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, a little
I've
bit.
never thought about that. What do you mean by that?
Just because like I don't know many people who are only child.
That's true. I think I'm
So
just like my whole generation from
yeah,
where I was born is like that. But actually, that's really true.
yeah. So when I meet someone who's an only child, I'm like, oh, you get it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how to explain that correlation, but it just feels like I'm in my own world sometimes, and then I don't know if I deserve that because like there's balances between being an only child and like trying to have relationships outside of that. But when you have siblings, like as an outsider looking at it, when you have siblings, you kind of have people to look up to or teach, you know. There's
Yeah.
definitely more people in your life to help you through things. And
Yeah.
as an only
Actually,
child, a lot of times you just got to figure it out.
yeah. Yes. And I think from my experience as an only child from an immigrant family, because when I came to the US the day of, I remember I didn't speak any English. And I was in the ESL program, and the teacher gave me the Pledge of Allegiance. It's like, these are some big words for someone that doesn't know English. And I'm like, you're saying I have to memorize this and say this every day? Like, it was so stressful.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So, right. Like, there's not a lot of people in my life growing up to teach me things, right? And I remember even getting ready to go into college, I didn't really understand how applications worked. I didn't even understand how scholarships worked because I did really well in school, and I guess I could have gone for scholarships, but I didn't even know. I didn't know what to do. So I didn't
Same.
apply to any of them. I had
Same.
no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I do think so. You're kind of in your own bubble a bit, and once you start expanding yourself as a person and exploring different things, and with not as much support in that or understanding in that intimate circle, then I think definitely it can feel very lonely and you start questioning yourself, right? Yeah, but when you said something about you growing up as an only child, I just wanted to give your inner child a big hug because I feel like I saw you. And just that uncertainty and that, living within rules but not feeling like you really want to belong there is a really tough space. So
Really tough, really tough. And I always
yeah.
tell it's a weird, I think there's a lot of pros to it. Like anything, there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons. And I think the big pro to being an only child is that loneliness in a way, because it forces you to be very creative, and it forces you to kind of like be okay with just yourself. And from looking at like some of my friends or family members or whatever, seeing them with their siblings, you know, down the road, I see them struggling to kind of have that
separation from the pack.
Exactly. Yes.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting conversation that I can't have with many people because no one understands.
That's so true. And now my brain, like, I'm wondering, it's probably conditional, but I'm wondering, like, do we tend to have a better or a tougher time connecting with our parents? Because personally, it was really tough. It was really tough to understand a very authoritative parenting style. But then also so interesting that as we're growing up and understanding more of ourselves as adults, like, and when I see them as actual human beings. And sometimes I see my mom as her little girl, like as her inner child. And I feel it's so much easier to connect that way. But growing up, it was really, really, really tough. So it like really drove me away from my family and my parents. The craziest thing is growing up, I don't ever remember my parents telling me I love you verbally. It was a cultural thing. And maybe my family thing, I don't know. But I truly feel like I didn't really hear those words out of my parents' mouth until I was in college. So yeah, that part of it was, now that I think about it, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty wild. Yeah.
And like you said, like looking back, it makes you kind of realize how everything unfolded after that, you know, and what made you who you are and why you're this and that.
I'm just so thankful it turned out okay.
I tell myself that all the time because, you know, it is definitely it's a blessing that, you know, through struggle, you can get through it, but during the tough times and the dark times, like it's hard to kind of understand that. And that kind of, we can get into the mental health conversation. Like, what does mental health mean to you? And kind of where did you, I guess what a better question would be, at what age did you realize like this is super important?
Recently. I would say the past 2-3 years. I think that, well, you know, now looking back, it should have kicked it earlier. I think that I was just unaware. So starting with, you know, kind of building off of our conversation regarding school, I went into college, so like, I'm going to work so hard, I'm going to get the best grades. Like, I really busted my ass in college, so much so that I made myself sick. So I kicked my thyroid into hyper mode. So one summer, it was like summer of my second year, my resting heart rate was like 150. I was constantly just sweating, super fatigued. No clue why that was happening. I thought it was just really hot in the summer. That's why I was sweating. I ended up in the ER. I was actually in China visiting family, and they were like, oh, you have hyperthyroidism. Doesn't run in my family at all. So apparently, especially for women, younger women, if it's a really highly stressful time, sometimes we can kick ourselves into that hyper mode. So immediately got on heavy medication to slow me down pretty much. Metabolism slowed down, gained like 30-40 pounds within 3 months. Couldn't walk to class, couldn't do much. So I think that kind of kicked me into a dark period, but I wasn't aware of it. And then from there, it was a constant struggle to find myself again, to, you know, find physically the energy and the body that I identified as myself in, right? As well as energetically, like I think I started losing pieces of my personality because of the energy. It was really weird. So, I mean, eventually I ended up getting my thyroid taken out, so now I don't have one. And it just constantly takes a lot of adjusting and so many crying in so many different doctor's offices and adjusting medication to try to find my true self that I almost can't remember. Like, what is that person? So I feel like I used to be, especially in college and while, you were younger, super hyper, super bubbly, social butterfly, just always had so much energy. And now I'm like, was that my thyroid being active? Was that truly myself? And friends that I made in that period is going through the changes with me and feeling me as a friend, my energy changing and my personality changing. And maybe I don't want to go out and be this bubbly person that I feel like everyone kind of expects you to be. Just to find that pattern, So from there, I think there was a lot of hormonal balancing that needed to happen. Sometimes because of the hormones, I would feel really angry, or I would feel really stressed, or I would have anxiety, but I had no clue. Like, I always just thought, okay, cool, it's my thyroid. I would have to adjust my medication, let me go get my blood work, blah, blah, blah. Never really thought about the mental health part of it at all. Until kind of early on during COVID, I think, I started to have these breakdowns. Like, I don't know, something would trigger me, and I would just curl up in a ball and cry so much. Kind of scared myself because I never acted that way. It was almost like I was just a little kid, and I just had so much energy and frustration that I didn't know what to do, that I just wanted to, like, punch my pillow and cry, and I don't even know why. So that was the first time that I actually sought out therapy. Because I was just so angry. I was angry and sad for no reason. I don't know what's going on. So my therapist at the time, she was definitely on a level that I could not understand. So I saw her a few times and I was like, this stuff is kind of witchy. Like, what is all this? We would do role play in therapy, and she would have me switch chairs, and, if I'm sitting on this chair, I'm my childhood self. If I'm sitting on this chair, I'm my adult self. I just could not understand. So I actually fired her for a little bit. I'm like, this is weird. And I tried to find a couple more therapists. But yeah, what she was kind of telling me was, the anger comes from an inability to communicate or to understand, right? So she was saying it's almost like learning a new language. And a lot of kids, like especially kids with autism, for example, tend to have outbursts. And this is not because they just want to act up, but it's just because they have a need or a feeling that they're unable to communicate. So I think that put it more in perspective for me, and I was just starting to understand and know that I needed to learn this language. So a couple of years later, I hired her back. So I need you back in my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, we started working from there. And interesting too, like in my brain, I think about mental health in different languages. So with therapy, we've been doing it in English, and I realized that I was still unable to connect with my true inner child self or my parents because I couldn't process this emotional communication in Chinese. That's something that I'm still trying to work on. Because a lot of my inner self-talk is also my native tongue. So that's interesting. It's like you have to learn a new language times two. Yeah. But yeah, just been going from there. And then I think over the past year or so, I got a little bit more spiritual. I was never religious or anything, and I'm still really not. But spiritual to me, meaning that I'm connecting more with my inner spirit. So I don't know. I think to me that goes hand in hand for mental health, right? And when I was kind of filling out the Q&A for your blog, I was speaking a lot about like my inner child and my inner guide and stuff like that. But I truly think that's the best way for me to balance. So yeah, I just think in terms of that a lot. My friend and I went to Sedona twice, once this year, once last year, and we actually did like a meditation with a shaman. And we were able to visualize a lot. And people are always like, what, were you on drugs? Like, no, we were completely sober, laying outside on a mountain. And she just kind of was speaking prompts and shaking this thing that kind of looks like a maraca. And you're just hearing this constant sound and her voice and just visualizing things. So I was visualizing my inner child. The very first time we did it, I visualized, you first go into your inner world, right? She's like, this is your inner world. Take a look around, see what plants are there, what's there. For me, it was white sand and white trees. I was like, there's nothing here. And she would say, okay, now call out to your inner spiritual guide. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's not going to show up. Nothing's going to show up. You know, it's so funny how the chatter in your brain still works. But, actually, immediately I saw like colors of purple and pink. And like a thought, I heard the words, "You're doing just fine." And I started crying and crying and crying. So I think, you know, mental health, spiritual wealth, Dr. Seuss over here. Just goes in hand for me, and that was, I think, the moment that I was introduced to my inner balance, which, like I was saying earlier, through my creativity and all of that led me to tattooing. So yeah, that's a really long story.
No, I honestly relate to pretty much all of it. Especially the spiritual part. Like I'm not religious. I've tried different kinds of religions, never really clicked with me. But I believe in something. I don't know what it is. I don't have a name for it. But there's definitely something in my soul pushing me forward.
Yes.
I can't like pinpoint it, and I don't necessarily want to put a label on it because I feel like putting a label on it takes it away from inside of me, if that makes sense. Like when I tried different religions and everything, it didn't feel right for me. It was like I'm not talking to myself. I'm not talking to
like you're requesting a meeting with something outside.
Yeah. And but I've had, you know, many spiritual encounters with a lot of tears and a lot of growth. And like honestly, last week I get a lot of it through music. So like when I hear especially like long guitar solos, I don't know why, but long guitar solos, I'll put headphones in and then go into like this different world, and then like that voice, like you were saying, is telling me like you're okay, you're gonna be fine, just keep going. And it's magical. Like it's something I could never put into words. And back to your point about like a lot of kids kind of struggling to communicate, that has always been an issue with me. I've always struggled with communicating how I feel and like being okay with my thoughts, because I'm often afraid of being judged for having like just different ideas, you know, very kind of pushed down from close people to me when I say like I want to do this and that, and they say negative things to try and deter me from doing that. And I think from all the tattoo artists I've talked to, and just creative-minded people, the creativity in art is our way of communicating without using words. And like when I record a podcast with just myself, like I do sometimes like 20-minute self-reflections. It's not me, Kellen, speaking. It's like the camera's rolling. This is an art form. So I don't even think about it. It's just thoughts going out.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. And I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you.
From saying that and experiencing that in childhood and turning it the complete freaking opposite way, having trouble expressing yourself and your thoughts to having 20-minute solo podcast sessions. That's amazing.
Well,
that's so amazing. It. So great job.
Thank you. It's a weird. I wish we had like 4 hours. I would tell you all about my childhood and everything, but it was a weird, very odd childhood. And I don't even know how to like tiptoe around it, but there's always been that same thing, like when you were in the meditation and you had that voice telling you you were okay. There was always something in me saying that, but I could never pinpoint it, if that makes sense.
I think it's similar for me, and I agree. I think there's a lot of power for me in attributing that to myself and my soul and my identity rather than a separate entity. So for me, I think the visualization helped a lot in those meditations that we had. So seeing that form of that purple pink cloud and feeling like, okay, this is my higher self or my inner guide, whichever that may be. And it was so interesting because the first time that I did this meditation, I imagined that pink purple cloud coming over and hearing those words, "You're doing just fine." And then later in the meditation, I saw this like pink cloud kind of form into a dancing, like someone dancing. And that's when I knew I had to dance. So after that year, I just danced. And then the most recent time when I did, and also the first time, there was a request to say, okay, now invite your inner child. And my inner child didn't want to come. Like there was nothing showed up. I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel it. But then, with the dancing and kind of connecting with myself spiritually, the second time my inner child showed up in this way of being very like very shy, hesitant, but I saw this little girl with little bowl cut that I had, and the meditation took me to a place where it was my guide, my inner child, and me, and then we saw this golden, glowing, beautiful person, entity across from me, right? And I remember my inner child right here was staring up at her being like, whoa, like this is crazy, like she's so pretty, like that type of feeling. Yeah. And I was also like, holy shit. Yeah. And my inner guide or I just had this thought of it saying, this is your twin. This is actually no different than you. At your truest, purest form, it is you. And the only difference that exists in this version of you in this physical plane or in my mind versus this person is that I'm expanding my energy on worry, on overthinking, on this very anxious energy. And the guide to me was, if I would just shift this energy into creativity, into other outlets, I would be no different than this beautiful person that I'm just jaw dropped to look at. So, that to me is comforting, and it kind of ties back to what you're saying, like not wanting to attribute it to something else and just knowing that it's me. It's the ultimate me that I'm striving for and having that visual. So.
Have you ever seen the movie Soul by chance? It's,
Yeah. Wait, is it the Disney movie?
yes.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
Yes. A Pixar?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yes, I have. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
that
Um,
movie kind of reminds me of everything that you just talked about. Because, yeah, like when I watched that the first time, I was bawling. Because
yes.
I forget I think his name was Joe Gardner, I want to say. But when he goes in, do you remember the movie?
Yes.
When he goes into like that, when he's playing jazz and he goes into that
Yes.
different world,
Yes.
that's exactly what I think of, like based on the story you just told, which is
Yeah.
crazy because I
I
don't
mean,
think many people can, that's definitely a privilege to figure that out,
yes. But also that's you when you hear those guitar solos, you
Yeah, that
know?
is true. Yeah.
So that's you going into that world and just your soul is relaxed and elated. So you're able to connect with this form of yourself without the troubles of our world, right? And I think when I say I want to preserve the specialness of tattooing for me, that's also what I mean. It's me working on someone. Like, I don't know, you paint, right? You're an artist yourself, right?
So I do paint, but I would not. This is like kind of the imposter syndrome thing where like
No, yes,
I
you paint.
would.
You're a painter. You paint.
I guess yes, but
You
like
do.
I've never considered myself an artist in that way. I don't even know what I would consider myself, not to be honest.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely feel that from you. And, when you are making even like the custom jackets and visually, like you definitely have that creativity and have that vision. So you're a painter. But I don't know. So
Thank
you probably have the same feeling. Like when I paint or when I draw, and sometimes I would just be so into it, I would pull all-nighters trying to finish a painting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that feeling of completing a painting is like, yes, I did
Yeah.
this, I did this, and you look through it, you see all the details, and you remember your thoughts and your mental state when you made that curve with the paintbrush, or it's like the whole experience of it and the feeling of completion is just so amazing. It's that multiplied however much tattooing for me.
Yeah.
So it's like every single time I finish something, I get that feeling of like, wow, I just did that, and I see it. And the best part of it is your painting / your canvas is also like, whoa.
Yeah.
So not only is it just in your mind, there's a confirmation of a voice from your work that's like also loving it, So that tattooing process just brings me into that elated state, like in soul every time. And I'm just
Dang.
so nervous of it losing that magic. I'm so nervous.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
Man, it's like hearing everything you've talked about so far and understanding that like it is very precious. So I totally get that you don't want to lose it. I don't even know how to navigate kind of like if you were to do it full time, like
How to.
yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because I have an artist. It's so weird how the world worked and how everything played out. But now she's in my studio. She has her own space. So like she has her studio and I have mine.
Yeah.
And I'm with her day to day. So shooting videos and everything. And we talk about that too. Like she doesn't want to burn out as well. And she loves what she does and her work is incredible, et cetera, et cetera. But to your point, like it is very sacred. And I think it's for a lot of tattoo artists as well. Like they love their work and their customers love it, obviously. I don't know how to navigate burnout because that's kind of another topic of like that's where I have a hard time relating with a lot of people, which kind of makes it tough to communicate in a way, because burnout for me is like I only burn out if I don't love it, you know. Like there's definitely, don't get me wrong, there's definitely days where like I don't want to do the work and everything, and I don't want to you know, I want to take a break, and I think it's 100% better to take breaks and to kind of manage yourself. But I'm on like a weird path right now where I can't stop, and like even if I wanted to, that voice that we were talking about in me is like, do not fucking stop, you know.
It's a passion for you, right? Like it's the best feeling. Like you're excited about what you're doing, you find your purpose, it's just so much fun, you know. I feel like we are almost in a similar timeline in our journeys. Like we're both just having so much fun and really enjoying. Work is starting to get more and more involved. No, definitely. I'm excited to check back in with you. But I was listening to your last episode with Kat James, and she had mentioned something like, I think, moving away from her current location, and now, and before that, just tattooing back to back, multiple days with no breaks, right? And I'm just nervous to do that. I know myself too well. I feel like if it was my full time, that would be my life. And when I first started tattooing on the weekends, I would go Saturday and Sunday from like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., no breaks. And I was like, oh, I'm actually working way more than my corporate job with zero break. And I wouldn't eat. There was no scheduled lunch because I would just be like, I could put another person here, you know? So that caught up. I mean, and I would come home and have a crazy huge meal because I would be starving, and I would just knock out, and I would just go again the next day. The process of it, actually being with the person and tattooing, it was still very special to me and so much fun, and that's how I could schedule myself that way. But I would come home and be exhausted, and I'd be like, oh, how could it be that I feel this way and I'm the one making the schedule? You know, no one's telling me I have to go there at this time. Why am I doing that? And even my clients, they know me so well. Like sometimes they will be like, did you eat? And people will bring me snacks throughout the day. And it was just, I would feel, it would be so amazing. But I also would binge all of that at the end of my day. So now I'm way better about scheduling breaks, and also it catches up on your body quickly. I think you guys talked about this before too, but your posture. I've been frequenting the chiropractor just because I'm like, just crack me, bend me that way. Like remembering to scheduling in those stretches. But I mean, you were doing yoga yesterday, so I feel like you're good on that end. But no, I need to personally do more of that. So
I remember earlier in the conversation you said you started dancing again. Are you still doing that?
It's definitely less. It's definitely less now, and man, it's just so easy to think I could just, you know, when people say, can you get me in? Or, hey, like, I'm just in town for this amount of time. Like, I don't know. That boundary sometimes for me can be hard. And I'll be like, okay, I guess I could stay longer. Or, all right, I guess I could wake up earlier. So I've definitely been dancing a bit less. And I need to. I could feel my body wanting to move and wanting to stretch. It's definitely crazy how quickly you get so stiff
Yeah.
Like I used to actually practice yoga often. And as soon as you take a break, I almost feel like you lose it. It's like,
100%.
man, I have
Yeah.
to start over again. Like I used to feel so much stronger and I used to be so much more flexible. So that, I think when you know you've had a break and you know you have to start, the starting is hard because you know you're going to feel the difference.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, I feel that. And that's kind of tying back into tattoos. I just got a new one recently, and like
Yeah.
the healing process, and I love tattoos more than anything in the world. I will never stop getting them. But I need to like expel a lot of energy through yoga and boxing, and when I can't do that, I turn into just a mess. And it's definitely something I am really trying to work on, but like for the five days I wasn't able to be active, I just don't know what to do with myself because there's just too much in me. I need to release, you know.
So for you, the physical movement, like in those days where you were unable to do the physical aspect of it, if you were creating and stuff, that's not, it doesn't help. You know what I mean? For you, is it two separate energies?
Kind of. So, like you were saying about painting and having those all-nighters.
Yeah.
So I know for me, this is so weird, and I'm still trying to navigate it because I'm in it right now. Like when I'm on my shit and working out and going to yoga and trying to train, and I have a set schedule, not set schedule, but I'm pretty routine. I'll wake up early, go to bed fairly early, and my days are good. I feel good in myself, etc. But like when I get the tattoo and I can't do that, then I go to bed super late, and I'll have this idea at 10 p.m. and next thing you know, I'm in the studio till 2 a.m. trying to figure it out, you know? So but that side is like unhealthy. And I guess I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this. Like, do you ever almost like go into creative states of mind where you need to almost not hurt yourself, but like be mentally a little bit shaken up so you can bring that creative side out of you, if that makes sense?
I feel like I haven't been there in a while, but I see what you mean. Like, this is where, so I kind of mentioned this before, going back to that aunt growing up that I was also always really close with and trusted her a lot. Her work was like in design. And when I was trying to figure out the major going into college, she had something like, you need to separate your work and you need to separate your hobby and your career.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, you hypocrite. Like, because I respect her so much, and I was just so disappointed. I remember being really disappointed and let down by that comment. And I just felt like, man, my parents must have told her to say that to me because they knew how much I cared about her thoughts. Because I was like, why would you say that? You're in design. Like, that's the most hypocritical thing I've ever heard.
Right.
But I do think that what you just mentioned is a symptom of putting your hobby and your career together, right?
Yeah.
I think it's tough.
It's a really tough,
but I do think it's better to be balanced. And I think it sounds like you figured out just the perfect right formula for you to feel good, right? And that's super powerful in itself. A lot of people don't know how the heck they should be spending their time in order to feel the most optimum. And if you have the formula already to make every day a pretty good day, then let's just stick with it, right?
Yeah. I mean,
day by day.
It is day by day. And yeah, I mean, it's a wild, wild road.
Yeah.
And like I give all the credit in the world to tattoo artists because like you were saying, it's tough to say no to people when they want like they want your work because your work is great and like it gives them that feeling, whether that be they're just getting it, you know, because they want the tattoo or they get it because it's almost like a therapy session.
Yeah.
And through these conversations and through Lonely Cowboy, like I want to help tattoo artists in the best way I can to like make them, give them more power than what they had in the past. And I think we're slowly getting there because through social media, you can market yourself and your art and how do I describe this? Like, I feel like before social media, clients who wanted to get tattoos were treating tattoo artists poorly because they didn't care about the person, they just cared about the art.
Yeah.
You know?
I've always been very lucky to feel extremely connected to the people that I've tattooed, and I've cried with them. And sometimes when you say, you know, tattooing as a form of therapy, I feel it. Energetically, I feel that, especially when I work on pieces dedicated to someone. So I do a lot of pieces that, like there's been people who I've worked on where maybe their friend passed away or a loved one passed away. And they're doing a piece kind of in memory of them. And it could be, I've done ones where maybe the friend was an artist. So they tattooed pieces of her art on their body, and or really intimate, like scripts from love letters that they've received. And whenever I do things like that, I always say, you know, as you're feeling the sensations of the tattoo, and as we're working through this, let it be a healing process for you. And as you're feeling the actual physical sensation, let it bring up emotional ones that need to kind of be taken care of. And I often ask, like, was there favorite band or music that they enjoyed that you want me to put on for you? So it's a really sacred place. And every single time that I work on those pieces, I feel like it's not even just goosebumps, but there's like this pull, like on the top of my head where my skin is being pulled up. Like I feel this physical sensation. And yeah, like I said, a lot of times we spend or we start or end the appointment in tears and hugs. And that's just so beautiful, you know? It's yet another reason that, you know, I don't want to lose that connection and just feeling that closeness. And kind of like how you were saying with the tattoo industry changing, like I've had so many people, I think 98% of my clients are women. And they say, like, you know, I've never felt so comfortable and safe and not judged, or like my tattoo artist, you know, it's like a different type of client and artist relationship for sure. And now, you know, I follow the people that I tattoo on Instagram and I interact with them. And, you know, for people that I've met that I know maybe have been going through a hard time or they're dealing with a loss, I feel so happy when I see them enjoying life. Because I just feel like, man, like I want you to just live your best life. And it just truly makes me feel so happy and truly feeling that connection with them. So yeah, definitely different than just someone popping in saying, I want that.
Yeah. And do you ever get like obviously the world is not perfect, so do you ever have to deal with kind of clients not knowing how to book or like not knowing how to treat a tattoo artist? Does that make sense?
I think that I myself am a pretty easygoing and generally patient person, so I don't mind. I mean, I've definitely had people that were maybe rude. That's like, how long does it take to respond to a message? Or,
Yeah.
or like, how long does it have to book? Or, I checked in at this time. I should be booked by now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, there's a reason you're not getting booked because the energy's not right. I don't say that, but everyone that I do see, I get to choose how I want to spend my time with someone. And if I'm going to be physically with you in a space, in the set period of time, working on something that makes me happy, especially, I think it gives power to it that I am part-time, so I can choose how I want to spend that time, and I feel like be a little bit more picky with the vibe of my clients. If I'm choosing to spend that time with you, my weekends and my evenings, aside from my other job, I want it to be a good experience for the both of us, right?
100%.
So I am, you could kind of feel a person and their intentions and in the way that they communicate to you. So I always look for that genuine connection coming from people. So yes, I've received maybe rude messages, but I haven't really had a negative experience in person, just because I think I do try my best to filter that out. Sometimes it's a lot. I think with tattoo artist booking and receiving DMs and stuff like that, I'm still trying to figure out like wait lists, forms, books opening, closing. I was still trying to experiment what works best for me. So I think as I'm finding that, most of the people have been really patient with me, and it's really been a great process.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know with my artist, like she'll tell me some messages that she gets from people, and like I've always wanted to be a tattoo artist. Like I think eventually I'll try.
Yes.
When I have a little bit more time, because right now I just I don't have any time to do it. But when I like hear some messages that she gets from people, like I personally don't have the patience for rude people. So like it'll be an immediate block and I'll never talk to them again.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but like like I said before, through these conversations, like I want, the average person who's looking to get a tattoo to like hear the perspective from an artist and understand that like the artist doesn't have to tattoo you. It's a privilege to get the tattoo from the artist you want.
Yeah, and that is tough.
Yeah, and to kind of give the power back to the tattoo artist.
Right, kind of go along with that. In the beginning I had a wait list, and I think people assumed that if I'm on a wait list, then I'm going to get booked. But I had to kind of communicate and be like, it really depends on if I feel like doing a piece too, right? Yeah. How do I want to spend my time? Maybe I already did 5 roses and I don't want to do another rose.
Right.
So it's art. It's me. I'm not a printer. I'm not a machine. I'm a person that wants to create art that I enjoy, right? So if I'm not enjoying the process, and if I'm just, here you go, here's this, and it goes on your arm, then it's just, it loses the meaning behind it, and it loses that sacred feeling. So, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not getting booked, it's because...
yeah, right. Yeah.
No, just kidding.
Well, let's wrap it up. But this was an amazing conversation, and I want to thank you so much for coming on and doing this collab with us. I'm excited for this week to roll out starting Monday, and I'll keep you updated on the shipping. But like I said, it's like I'm looking out the window right now, and it is dumb thing down. So
Dang.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's supposedly like one of the historic snowstorms in Buffalo.
It's that bad?
It's bad. Like
I'm
last
not ready.
night, last night we had maybe like just a little dusting on the ground, and then I woke up this morning to 3 feet. So
Sometimes I just look outside and I cry. Right around 5 p.m. The seasonal depression thing, like it actually really affects me. So lately I've been like, vitamin D, vitamin D.
Yep. I'm
So
taking
take your
it.
vitamin D.
Yes, I'm definitely taking it. Definitely taking it. That's a whole nother topic we could talk about.
Yeah, I know. It's so easy to go on and on.
Right. But yeah, they can find you at Crispy Aura on Instagram.
Yeah.
Is there an
it's
underscore?
Underscore Crispy Aura. There's a couple other Crispy Auras out there. But no, it's underscore Crispy Aura.
Gotcha. And your books, are they open, closed, if people want to book with you?
Yeah, so I'm starting a new booking system next year. So it's going to be booked. I'm going to be booked through the end of the year. But starting January, I'm going to move to a monthly list rather than a whole giant list that I just kind of dig my way through.
Yeah.
So the January book will be open on December 2nd at noon.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much once again. And after this episode, I'll text you and we'll figure out all the next week's stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much. It was so nice to chat, and please stay connected because I want to follow your journey, and it was an awesome chat. So
For sure.
thank you.
And I want to follow yours as well. So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Of course. Have a good one.
You
See you
too.
later.
Bye.
Bye.